The movie begins with a visual of a library, where Cairo's voice can be heard in the background talking about her transformation to adulthood. Cairo speaks about her distant parents, who she feels have completely forgotten her existence. We see Cairo walk out of her large house and head to her school, where she meets Jonathan. Walking into class, Cairo introduces herself, telling Jonathan that she was aware that classes wouldn't be starting for another hour. Cairo tells Jonathan a little bit about herself, and he's impressed by her vast knowledge in books. During the conversation, Winnie, Cairo's best friend, arrives and interrupts the conversation. After a bit of back and forth, Winnie and Cairo head out of the class, leaving Jonathan to go through Cairo's books. While he's taking a look at them, Jonathan's friend, Boris, arrives and teases Jonathan about the book with explicit content. In the list, the two men find a book written by Jonathan and are impressed by Cairo's knowledge of him. After a long day, Jonathan goes home and finds his distant wife, Beatrice, working on her new book. Sitting in front of her, Jonathan nags his careless wife to speak to him, telling her about the writers in his class, but she doesn't seem interested. Getting up from the chair, Jonathan opens the music and pours his wife a glass of drinks, initiating a dance. Although he tries to initiate an intimate moment with his wife, she expresses her business and goes back to work. The following morning, Jonathan meets Boris at the schoolyard for their daily breakfast and watches Cairo arrive. After offering Cairo a biscuit, Boris leaves Cairo and Jonathan alone. Curious, Jonathan asks Cairo if she isn't scared coming through the woods alone, and is surprised when she expresses how fearless she is. That night, Cairo and Winnie meet at Cairo's house, where she expresses how much she hasn't achieved anything. Winnie advises Cairo to experience things so she can grow and achieve the adulthood she's been seeking. Winnie expresses her desire to sleep together with their teacher Boris, telling Cairo that she feels like he would take care of her. Winnie also tells her that she believes Jonathan is interested in Cairo, making her interested. The following day, Jonathan asks Cairo to meet him after class, and the two have a short discussion about Cairo's interest in choices of university. Jonathan then mentions the writing assignment Cairo had submitted and recites it for her, telling her how impressed he was with her work. He then offers her a kickstart on her midterm, so she'd be able to do great. Cairo then mentions that she had read Jonathan's book and recited a phrase just as he had, impressing him with her ability. Feeling vulnerable, Jonathan confesses that he felt uninspired after he got married, but Cairo pushes him to do better. That night, Jonathan, Boris, and Beatrice go out for dinner and discuss Jonathan's talented student. During the conversation, Beatrice criticizes Jonathan's teaching career, telling him that he's not a writer anymore, which just hurts his feelings. A few days later, Jonathan invites Cairo to a poetry get-together, hoping to change her mind about their town. After the program, Cairo admits to Jonathan that she enjoyed the performance. As they talk, the two share a moment as they quietly admit to their affection for one another. The following day, Jonathan's wife sends him a provocative text asking him to come home. While he's packing up his stuff, Cairo and Winnie come into class to speak to him about Cairo's midterm paper. Cairo speaks to Jonathan very provocatively, but he seems too distracted to entertain her. After Jonathan leaves, Cairo realizes that he accidentally has taken her phone with him. Heading home, she calls Jonathan, who still hadn't left on the gateway with his wife because she was suddenly busy, and asks him to drop off her phone. When he finally arrives at Cairo's house, he sees her walk out in a beautiful white dress, and the two begin to kiss in the rain. A few days later, Jonathan receives Cairo's midterm paper, which was inspired by their experience together. While he reads, he begins to imagine the character where he and Cairo lose themselves in every word she wrote. The sexual way she had written the paper had driven him mad, and he spent the night alone, enjoying himself. Excited to hear what Jonathan had to say, Cairo goes to school early so she can speak to Jonathan. When she arrives at school, she's shocked that Jonathan seems upset about what she's written. He tells her that he won't be tolerating her writing unless she changes it, and warns her everything that happened between them is now over. Angry, Cairo accuses him of confusing her and then going back on his word when she goes along with it. Ignoring what she was saying, Jonathan tells her that he was only her teacher. He also informs her that any misconception she must have felt, she should deal with alone. Unwilling to accept what he's saying, Cairo begins to attack Jonathan's character, telling him that he's mad at himself for not achieving what he set out to do. Staring him deep into his eyes, she dares Jonathan to fail her, telling him that she would retaliate and warns him to be careful with his decision. After saying her piece, Cairo walked out of the class, feeling the heartbreak of what Jonathan had done to her. Going home, she meets up with Winnie and begins to drink, crying about what her lying teacher had said to her. It's obvious to Winnie that her friend is in love with Jonathan. Going home that night, Jonathan seems upset and is confronted by his wife. He tells his wife everything that happened with Cairo and shows her the paper she had written. Beatrice seems enticed by what Cairo has written and initiates an intimate moment with her husband, but they're interrupted by Boris. Cairo and Winnie then decide to text Boris, hoping to fulfill Winnie's fantasy. When their first attempt doesn't work, Cairo asks Winnie to kiss her while they're half naked and sends the picture to Boris. In a flashback, we see Cairo submit the paper she had written to the principal. While having a fun time with his wife and best friend, Jonathan receives a call from the principal who informs him that she had seen the paper Cairo had written. She informs him that she would like to speak to him formally. Shocked by what had happened and what Cairo had done, Jonathan informs his wife about what the principal had just told him. His drunken wife begins to suspect that something happened between him and his students, but he denies all of the allegations. The following day, Cairo doesn't come to school, and a worried Winnie speaks to Jonathan about her friend, asking him if he had spoken to her recently. Seeming agitated, Jonathan informs Winnie that they hadn't heard from Cairo in a while, and is not willing to do so. Later that day, Cairo and Jonathan are called into the principal's office to give an account of what happened between them. They each recount the relationship they had, mentioning that Jonathan had taken Cairo under his wing as she was an exceptional student. Cairo admits that she and Jonathan met up after school hours to talk about literature and things they cared about. Cairo also comes clean about smoking with her teacher and that they'd been alone several times. Jonathan admits to going over to Cairo's house to return her phone and tries to defend himself, but he's unable to do so as the principal has already made up her mind about him. After the emotionally draining conversation, Jonathan seeks solace in the company of his close friend Boris, hoping to find some comfort amidst the turmoil. However, instead of offering the support he craves, Boris sternly chastises him for his actions, casting a shadow of disapproval upon their friendship. Boris, weighed down by the fear of potential consequences, hesitates to stand by Jonathan, fearing the repercussions that could potentially fall on him as well. As Jonathan makes his way back at home that night, burdened by the weight of his recent encounter, he musters the courage to break the news to his beloved wife. With a heavy heart, he reveals that he's been suspended from his position, his professional life hanging precariously in the balance. The revelation adds another layer of distress to an already tumultuous day, as Jonathan grapples with the uncertainty of what lies ahead for him and his family. Her suspicions grow, and Beatrice confronts Jonathan about his feelings for Cairo. When he refuses to give her a straightforward answer, she accuses him of being flattered by a girl, and Jonathan couldn't help but admit to it. Yelling at his wife, he tells her that Cairo made him feel something, and inspired him to go back to his old days when he had a passion for writing. When she kept antagonizing him, Jonathan angrily accuses her of being an alcoholic. Beatrice doesn't seem to care about her husband's anger, and walks away after telling him to make up his troubles and write about it. Winnie arrives at Cairo's house late at night and finds Cairo smoking in her room. When she asks her what she was doing to Jonathan, Cairo confesses that she's going to testify against him against the school board. Winnie begs Cairo not to do this and even threatens to testify against her, but Cairo threatens to show the school the messages Winnie had with Boris, telling her both teachers would lose their credibility. Cairo then tells Winnie that what she did was her greatest achievement to date and reads her the ending of her book. She writes her experiences into her admission essay, in the same style Jonathan used in his book. Jonathan, having reached rock bottom but inspired for the first time in years, decides to write a new book. Days later, Cairo sees Jonathan standing by the school with tears dripping from her eyes. In the background, she expresses how much her experiences with Jonathan have changed her, forming her into a new person. She explains how she had come out a completely new person from the ruins of another.